Color correction is how you can really sculpt the feeling that your audience will receive when they watch your film. Now, it sounds like something that you do to fix colors that are pretty bad in your footage, which is true. But sometimes you're also changing your footage to evoke a certain feeling or place. A good example of this is Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings was shot in New Zealand, and a lot of the outdoor scenes were given color correction so that we would feel that we were in Middle Earth instead of New Zealand. So you add a little purple here, a little blue here, and you'd feel like you were somewhere else. The color correction category is vast. So if we go to Effect, Color Correction, you see we have a ton to choose from. Some of them sound like the ones you find in Photoshop. For example, you have curves, you have hue saturation, you have levels, and you even have some of the auto correction adjustments. I'll give you a quick example of a black and white one. So I'm going to let go of this first of all so we can see the footage of Everest, okay? Everest.mov that you'll find in your work files folder. And as you can see, it's in color. So I'll go to Effect, Color Correction, Black and White. What happens now is that the colors are desaturated and we're giving a nice film noir look here. All right, so I can scrub that and see we have a nice black and white footage here. I'm going to undo that. I'll go back to Effect, Color Correction, and we can do things like curves. Now, just like in Photoshop, you have this line here that gives you the ability to click on it, and you can move this dot up or down to increase or decrease the values that we have in our tones here. So as you can see, we can really do all kinds of cool things by using these sliders. Once again, you'll find this curve effect in Photoshop as well. So we can create a very X-ray kind of feeling by simply adjusting the curves. I'll undo this effect, or I can simply click on it and hit delete. A lot faster. I'll go back to Effect, Color Correction, and we could choose an old standard hue and saturation. Now this one works by simply hitting Colorize, and right away we're given something to work with. We have our colorized hue, and we can use this dial to change the hue present in our footage. Likewise, we also have a saturation slider and a colorized lightness. You can deselect this to now enable the master saturation, master lightness, and the master hue. Once again, I'll go ahead and get rid of this one, and we'll try yet another one. We have color correction, and we have, let's see here, exposure. And what we can do with the exposure is we can change the exposure of the footage, so we can underexpose the footage by going all the way to the left. We can overexpose the footage by going to the right. And we can change the gamma correction, which are like the grayscale tones. So that's another example of a color correction effect. I'll go back here again, and this time I'll choose levels. Levels is once again something like you'll find inside of Photoshop, where you're given this graph here called a histogram, which shows you the white and black and also the gamma values that are present in your image. So what we can do is we can use these sliders here to change our gamma, and we can change our light pixels, so we can shift those over, and we can shift the light ones and the dark ones over by shifting left or right. And we can watch this histogram to see the value of those pixels based on the RGB values. I'll go ahead and get rid of that one. And let's see what else we can use here. Once again, we can also choose the auto levels, auto contrast, and color. And these typically do a pretty good job. Let's see what else we're going to find here. We also have, let's see, I think I will choose the vibrance here. Vibrance is something that was introduced, I believe, in the last Creative Suite as far as Photoshop. I remember this very well, where this was a better version of the color correction so that you wouldn't get such harsh changes. So vibrance simply looks at your footage and gives you the ability to gently nudge more saturation into your footage. So you would make it look more alive. So as you can see here, this is kind of boring. And now I'm just giving it a little bit more punch. And I can take this saturation and kick it a little further. So I can really show the color in her fur, by the way. So I can just take these sliders and gently nudge it, and I can see more pink in her nose and along her eyes. So as you can see here, it looks much, much better than it did before. I'll actually go ahead and click on this FX to hide to show you the difference. Okay, so those are just a few of the 1.7 trillion color correction tools you have available to you inside of After Effects.